We're good. So we have a big crowd. I get to do this. I'm going to use the gavel to bring us to order. How's that? All right. Okay. Thank you. I'd like to call to order the Select Board meeting for November 17th, 2025 for the town of Hanover. We have a relatively full meeting this evening. I know a number of you are here for comments on fair and impartial policing. We will get to that. There is also scheduled a public hearing, which we will come up first, which is on parking. I will turn to my fellow Select Board members. Is there a desire to reorder the agenda? I would perhaps suggest, in light of the fair and impartial policing turnout, that we consider moving that to item number 1 following the public hearing. Everyone okay with that? Sure. Yes. All right. Okay, good. Sure. All right. But before that, we will have public comment. This is the period of the agenda when the public is welcome to address the Select Board. We ask that one addresses issues that are not already scheduled on the agenda. We ask that individuals restrict their comments to 5 minutes. Questions will be directed to the chair. So to me, please. Are there any members of the public who wish to address the Select Board at this time? I'm seeing several. Okay, I'm seeing 5 different. Okay, again, reminder, this is for items that are not on the agenda, not for items that are on the agenda. Are there still members? Yes. Okay. If you could please come forward. If you could sit at the table and introduce yourself, your name, and where you live, please.
My name is Allie Price, and I live in Etna.
Welcome, Allie.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Good evening. My name is Allie Price, and I live in Etna with my husband, Mark Hawkrider, and our 2 little boys. I'm here tonight to share with you about an outstanding resource, welcoming meeting place, and inclusive community hub that I hold in the highest regard, the Etna Library. The Etna Library is our home away from home. Upon entering the library, patrons will be warmly welcomed by Jeff or Sarah, who undoubtedly use your name to greet you, ask your children how they are, and give your overexcited dog a pack of dog bones to take home. By the time you convince your dog to sit and wait patiently, Jeff or Sarah will be kindly and lovingly helping your very curious first grader find one of his 45 requests of the day, and most likely have already assisted your 4-year-old in settling into a cozy window seat to devour a stack of books. This is a typical experience for our family and so many others in the Hanover Etna community. While Jeff and Sarah go above and beyond in every way, every day, to ensure the ultimate library experience for the youngest of patrons to the senior members, there was one recent time where I was truly astonished by Jeff's dedication to not only his role as the Etna Library Director, but also his commitment to the town as a whole. About a month ago, I opened the door to the library and there were pumpkins everywhere. Beautiful, perfectly shaped orange pumpkins adorn the tables, chairs, and desks of the library. I said to Jeff, "Yay, pumpkins are back. They look great this year. Where'd you get them from?" He chuckled and gave me a crooked smile and said, "Well, they came from a less well-known farm in Thetford. It was a different experience than I've had in the past." So I obviously wanted to hear the rest of the story, which goes like this. Jeff went on to explain that he showed up at the farm he was to pick up the pumpkins from, and there was no human or pumpkin for that matter in sight. So he called the farm contact, and they half-heartedly directed him to some other dirt road where he was to travel down till he saw the pumpkins. Jeff arrived at the said location and only saw fields of on-vine pumpkins. Now, historically, when Jeff and Sarah secure pumpkins for their Decorate a Pumpkin fall activity, they arrive and the pumpkins are boxed up, ready to go. They pop the boxes in the car and go on their merry way. Not this year. Jeff called back the farm contact and inquired about where the pumpkins for the Etna Library were. The farm person then instructed Jeff to go back to the field and pick the pumpkins. As Jeff told me this part of the story, I thought he was actually joking, but he wasn't, and he did it. In his sneakers, bare hands, and his work shirt, Jeff picked 150 pumpkins off the vine. I was seriously shocked, and I asked Jeff, "Why on earth didn't you just bail on the mission?" To which he replied, "Well, I thought about it, but they were 50 cents cheaper per pumpkin, so I just did it." Jeff and Sarah have a can-do attitude and work well within their means, offering truly outstanding free community events to Etna Hanover families and beyond. As I started sharing with friends and family around Etna and Hanover how I was going to voice my feelings in support of the Etna Library to the select board, people started asking if they could come with me. Could they do something, come stand by my side to show their support as well? And instead of parading dozens of folks in here with me, I said to them, how about you send me with some quotes to share and I'll present on behalf of the community. So these are just a few of the sentiments family have asked me to pass on to you all. This is a 6-year-old boy from Etna. A 6-year-old boy asks his mom as they drive down the road, Mom, where are we heading today? Mom replies, the Etna Library. And her son says, the Etna Library is my favorite place in the whole world. This is an Etna family with 2 grade school boys. Our family is so grateful to have such wonderful people like Jeff and Sarah running the Etna Library. It's nice knowing that even in our small community, there are fun activities going on for kids like Lego Club. My kids look forward to it every week, and it's also fun for the grown-ups. This is a homeschooling parent in Hanover with 2 young children. The Etna Library is truly a gem within our community. Jeff and Sarah have made it a welcoming, cozy place filled with a wide-ranging and robust collection of literature, a dependable gathering spot and a center where programming and enrichment for all ages abound. It was Jeff and Sarah's cheerful willingness to champion the New Hampshire interlibrary loan system that allowed my daughter to fall further in love with chapter books as we devoured the entire According to Humphrey series over the summer, and my son's passion for equipment and machines to be honored and celebrated as we read and reread every Tractor Mac book shared with us by libraries across the state. This is an Etna mom of a preschooler and kindergartner. Jeff and Sarah create the kind, warm, welcoming, centered atmosphere that makes the Etna Library feel like a true gathering place for families. They greet everyone with genuine enthusiasm, remember names and interests, and have a remarkable ability to make children and parents alike feel welcomed and excited to participate. Some of my kids' favorite events include Lego Mondays, the spooky haunted story walk that delighted kids of all ages. In addition, their joyful presence and crafts at the Old Timers Parade brought energy, connection, and a sense of shared celebration to the whole community. Jeff's leadership and spirit have become an essential part of what makes the Etna Library and Etna so special. This is a mom of 2 kids. Jeff goes above and beyond to make both normal days and events feel special and memorable for kids and adults. Just this summer, he ran a top-notch and engaging summer reading program that had myself and my 7- and 4-year-old excited about an entire summer of reading. Highlights for our family included the bike parade, the pumpkin decorating kits,
Sorry, we reached the 5-minute mark.
Okay.
But if you could just wrap up.
Sure. So basically, a resource in a community that provides so much to so many deserves proper attention and recognition. And I know that Jeff and Sarah feel unwavering support from the community. And it's absolutely crucial that the select board provides the same level of support and to ensure that Sarah and Jeff can keep on making magic for many years to come. And I want to leave you all with an invitation to truly understand and get a sense of the joy, happiness, and love that fill the Etna Library. You need to stop by and see it for yourselves. Jeff and Sarah have created a space where you want to come in, sit down, slow down, unwind. So they hold Lego Club every Monday, the first Monday of December. Come on, stop by, have a piece of pizza, and check it out. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate the anecdotal, the fun pumpkin stuff, and
Thank you very
also
much.
your support for the Etna Library.
Mine's gonna be similar, but
Okay.
I can quit.
Your
I
name
can
is?
echo the sentiment.
Thank you.
Very nice, nicely put. So I'm Katie Shaw. I also live in Etna. And I'm here in support of the Etna Library. Okay, so, and thank you for giving me some time to speak about how much I love this library. So in 2024, when I was a mother of 3 young children, 1 newborn, a 3 and a 5-year-old, I decided to take a year off of work to stay home with my kids. It was a joyful time, but also lonely. And I was searching for a sense of community, somewhere I could feel safe bringing all 3 of my kids. And that place became the Etna Library. From the very first day we walked through the doors, Sarah and Jeff welcomed us in. They didn't just tolerate the energy and chaos that comes with 3 kids under 5. They embraced it. They took the time to learn my kids' names, their interests, the kinds of books they gravitated toward. And as any parent of young children knows, finding a public space where all of your kids feel genuinely welcomed can be rare. And Etna Library really gives us that gift. And what started as a simple outing to get books became the foundation of the community I was hoping to find. I met friends there, my kids met friends there. We spent countless hours at Lego Club. I will also be there in December. Arts and Crafts Club, all the weekend events we can make it to, especially the Spooky Walk, which is a favorite experience for all 3 of my kids. And some of the small everyday moments of popping in just to say hello, grab a book or two. Over time, the library has become one of the places my children ask to go most often. And it's because of the environment our librarians have thoughtfully created. Sarah and Jeff have become trusted adults in my kids' lives, people who not only remember their interests, but who set aside books or topics they think the kids might love. That level of care is meaningful, it's personal, and it's what makes the Etna Library truly special. As one of my friends said while we were all gathered inside the library enjoying hot cocoa post Spooky Walk, this is the most magical space. The Etna Library brings us together. It's more than just shelves and books. It's a gathering place, a safe space, and it's really a cornerstone for the Etna community. So we are deeply grateful for everything they do, and I encourage the select board to support this library in any way they can.
Thank you, Katie. And Katie and Ali, you should know you're not the first to come before the select board to discuss the Etna Library. And we do support the library. And while we're happy to hear how much you love the Etna Library, there is, to our knowledge, there's no discussion of change of course with respect to the Etna Library. So we love the support, and it is a special place. But you should know that we support the Etna Library.
Perfect.
Okay. All right.
Cool.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
It's very fun to hear these comments.
It is fun. Yes. Spooky Walk, pumpkins.
You are pumpkins.
Thank you. Thank you, Katie and Ali. You're welcome to stay for additional comments. Are there additional public comments at this time? Peter, could you please come forward? And if you could just indicate your name and where you live, please.
Thanks, Gary. Give me, hang the ass walk, so give me a minute to sit down. And I know I got some footwear on that your cops in town and elsewhere have asked me not to wear, but I'll get to that in a minute. Pete Zandron, White River Junction. And I'm here tonight because I saw the write-up about the last select board meeting. I mean, how can what's going on with ICE be just a town issue? Because anyone can be suddenly detained legally or illegally by an organ. And if I know they would make this kind of stupid write-up, just as an example, 17 years ago, I was briefly detained by what is now ICE when I was living in Rhode Island and when I had to go to New York to handle some family and legal matters over there. Why? Because I had the same name as my grandfather, who was brought to this country as a child 100 years ago illegally. And ICE did not realize that he had died 10 years before I was born and buried on a historical Revolutionary War site. Now, I mean, in my case, it went good. I was detained for less than an hour. It went clear. But something like that, it can happen to anyone here. How do we know that someone here in town or in the region cannot experience something similar?
So you know, we are going to have a discussion with respect to the fair and impartial police.
I got a bus to catch. Didn't mean to be a pain in the ass about it, but I had to bring that up because I know how you invite the press here and they don't always get it. I mean, that comment they made about quality of living, we're still having problems for what happened at the protest a year and a half ago. One reason why me and other people who do the Friday pickets you usually see, we keep it to a set routine for our own safety. And me being here, one reason I got these on, that was to deliver a pointer because this select board meeting is at the same time that Charlie Kirk's associates scheduled an event over at Rockefeller. Now, that is just the embodiment of cowardice to have these people who say they want to engage in politics and discourse, to do it in a way that would draw attention away from discourse and important matters. And this is the second time Dartmouth has done something this insightful. The last being, I mean, we all remember when I spoke with Mr. Houseman about the Surgeon General's event. I mean, me and other people were not sure if we were going to show up and picket, but when they invited Tim Willens to speak, someone who 25 years ago, I had to extract kids from their care because this is someone who basically tortures children for profit. That's a deal. And to have someone like a group like Turning Point USA come here, especially 2 months ago on my birthday, Charlie Kirk's associates made a mass frank complaint to the FBI about me. That's basically, this is what's going on at Dartmouth. So here to send I mean, and these topics tonight are important. Why aren't, if these Charlie Kirk freaks want to really have discourse, why aren't they here tonight talking about issues with people who can make things happen?
Appreciate your support of the select board meetings.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Pete. Are there other members of the public who wish to address the select board at this time? If you could please come forward, state your name and address, please.
My name's David Vincelette. I live at 93 Lebanon Street in Hanover. I've lived there since 1984 when I graduated from Dartmouth. I have a duty to defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. I'm a retired 25-year veteran of the United States Army. This town has illegally blocked our road, violating our civil rights to travel for months and years at a time. This Veterans Day, I was feeling kind of down. I got a phone call from my mother and my eldest sister, Tamara. And they left me with a message to keep on keeping on. I've never had the nerve to tell my mother what you all have done to me. That you shut down my rental property, took out all the people who were paying rent, so I had some money coming in, kicked out all the homeless people, veterans, and then when you evicted everybody, instead of allowing me the time to get enough taxes to catch up my bill, Robert Hausman oversaw the demolition of the buildings. Now, there's been a quorum on this board, select board, for the last 20 years that I have been coming here that has denied me access to the agenda. I want to bring up to the public the fact that our brook has been systematically polluted by Dartmouth and Hanover, and that Dartmouth and Hanover oversaw an illegal false imprisonment of citizens. The fire department, the police department, the public works, the sewer department, the housing department, town managers, and the select board all have questions to answer, but have all been hidden from view. Silence has been violence against the innocent. Remnants of the fence remain on our property. The gate was finally opened after a court order, but the fence remains. Indication to my family of what you have done to us. I was wondering if I'm supposed to direct my questions to you, sir. Can any of the three remaining select board members and Mr. Hausman, since all three were involved as conspirators in restraining our liberty for 25 and a half months, I was wondering if any of them would be willing to apologize for that.
David, you have presented your,
It's right there.
I understand.
I understand too.
He may choose to speak if he wishes, but David, you have presented your claims for, you said 20 years, it's many, many meetings.
Yes. And they've never made the agenda.
They have not. You have made allegations.
They're not just allegations, they're facts.
So you've had detailed
You've got
response.
3 people on this board who are Dartmouth employees. You've had at least 3 members of the board who've been Dartmouth employees going back 20 years. Dartmouth put poison in my children's water, and you don't want to know about it. He works for Dartmouth. So does So does Joanna Whitcomb. This guy, this criminal here, has worked for Dartmouth as a helper to do their housing. Doesn't tear their housing down. Doesn't bully their people who are hurt, somehow incapacitated, veterans, poor people. Those are all let go. But my family, and that was nice of you not to arrest that woman like you arrested me 3 times for going over my 5-minute allocation.
Are there other members of the public who wish to address the select board at this time for non-agenda items? Seeing none. Let's move to a public hearing on proposed parking rates and fees. Public hearing is now open. I'll turn it over to Bob for discussion.
Thank you. The parking division, downtown division now, and I have been working on an approach to streamline the parking garage as it comes back online, to simplify the fee structure, and to provide 1-hour parking free at the start of any, as they come through the garage. We can deploy this as soon as the rates are approved, and we can modify these rates after a public hearing if we feel that they need to be adjusted. We feel this is a great first step to test what we can do to move the parking, to create flexibility in parking, create opportunity for downtown employee parking, and to create free parking for an hour so people can come into town and spend some time without having to fear the meter's going to, that they have to find parking or pay a fee. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the select board may have or respond to any comments made by the public.
Select board questions with respect to.
The only question I had that I brought up last week was the jump from hour 7 to hour 8. And now it's $3 increments, but then we go up to a $5 increment for that last hour. My assumption would be that we are baking in people staying past that 8 hour, and that's why we went to $20. But I'm just wondering what the thought was there.
I think we started with the premise that the 20-hour rate is the full day rate in the garage, and we work backwards. But we haven't run the numbers to see how this, if we modified that cap, what it would do for our potential revenues, understanding we're working with an approved budget that expects a certain amount of revenue from the garage. So if we're not seeing the use, we can certainly come back and revisit it.
And were these rates kind of modeled out based on current usage or usage before the construction to get to the same level of revenue, or is this just a kind of a cleaner way of doing it?
So the challenge with the question is we have not been able to utilize the garage in a full way since the carbon monoxide system went down. So it's been over a year that's been on the basement, the 2 lower levels have been offline. So I don't have an understanding of the data from whole use approach. And our thought was simply to come up with a solution, first first hour free, then to incrementally change it, and also to float a new rate for employee that mirrored the 10-hour lot rate.
Further questions from select board members?
Can I just say,
It's
really hard to hear in the back. Can you use the
Okay.
microphone? I
there,
barely heard that gentleman.
I will speak to the audience.
Okay, I could barely hear. And I have good ear.
other questions from select board members with respect to the proposed changes to parking garage rates?
My questions are just future looking and thinking that maybe we'll wanna also come up with a way. I think this was Jared's idea that there be more flexibility as we find like the balance. Like I look around sometimes in super high areas, there just isn't a spot, and I wonder if the prices are set correctly. So maybe there's a way that we can have a hearing that allows for the flexibility for the balance to be found throughout the different zones. Because this seems like we're never gonna quite get there if we have to do everything so stepwise.
You're saying like,
Like say, oh, let's approve up to something or a range or playing around with, because right now it's like, if you're gonna park over 4 hours, you might as well park 10 hours or, or if there's a big benefit to getting to town early right now because some places do fill up. And if there are places that we do want parking available, where there is turnover, then maybe that needs to be changed, how we allocate that based on the price. But yeah, so that's what I was thinking. So that's probably like a next stage. This seems, I like the round numbers.
Yes. I think it's fair to say that we've spent a lot of time looking at technology and the online systems that we have available to us. And we found that our kiosks don't create the flexibility that we thought we would have in them. So as we continue to march forward, we're doing some bigger data analysis that will bring back to the select board with recommendations in the downtown. I do want to acknowledge that it's been a parking nightmare in town. That parking nightmare has been compounded by the garage coming offline. We needed to pull the Band-Aid off or lose the parking garage for a longer period of time. Understanding that East Wheelock was closed for parking until today because of the construction, that there has been a lot of other construction impacting parking. Our hope is that going forward, we'll be able to model the information that we're getting based on the true availability of parking, not parking that's been taken offline for other reasons. And our hope is to take that into consideration as we look for solutions. I think the point that Jenny's making is, if parking remains full, are we charging enough? I'll leave it that way because I think some of us acknowledge that construction parking is occurring in what we would hope to be customer lots or customer spaces.
Thank you. Unless there are any other.
I just like one last.
Yes.
If I could have it my way. The garage would be the cheapest parking in Hanover. I think our long-term parkers should be going to the most inconvenient places. And I think the parking garage, not that it's inconvenient, but it's one of the less convenient options. And I think if we were to kind of draw a bullseye around our busiest section, which is kind of the middle of Main Street, and go outward from there, it should be more expensive there and then less expensive as we get further out. And my feeling is that the garage is too expensive, even with the new proposed rates. I'm willing to try it and see if it fills up and see what the business owners and shoppers and our constituents think about it. But that would be my preference, would be for the garage to be the least expensive parking in town.
I do want to point out, and I apologize that it's not on this list, but the employee rate is $6.
Yep, it's great.
I have the one more, I guess going forward, because we can only have a public hearing on what was put out, right?
Yep.
It came up again because there was another big game and, Dartmouth is charging for parking during the big game, just a little bit away. from our free garage, that perhaps we could have event parking. And make sure that we have some spots in our garage, even when there's a big game, you know?
Yes. Right, as this is a public hearing, are there members of the public who wish to discuss these proposed parking? Jim, if you could please come forward and give us your name and address, please.
Rubens from Etna, owner of, my wife also, of 3 Lebanon Street, Hanover Park. I'll stand up because I want to be brief. I'll start with the question. And thank you, first of all, for experimenting in this way, Manager Houseman and Sergeant, Lieutenant Swain. Question is, I look at the rates there, and would be wonderful if this is the case, where if someone goes beyond 2 hours, they exit the garage and get charged without a parking ticket for whatever number of hours at the rate published there that they use.
That's correct.
So it's a way to avoid, I love this. So I gotta thank you folks for coming up with this idea. It's a way for the town to let people park for as long as they want and pay for it without the risk of a parking ticket. So first of all, a thank you. And just a general comment about our parking system.
David's phone, excuse me.
User-friendly tone.
Yeah.
So just a general comment, we have a very punitive parking system right now in general in the downtown. It's just as the envelope around as you strategize and test pricing regimes. And it causes people not to come to town. So we have a system that keeps people from not to driving into town, not using the downtown. And we have 3 vacant buildings on Lebanon Street. I just hope the selectmen keep that in mind, that our punitive system is punishing users and preventing people driving into town. So as you redesign the parking system in every way you can, if you can think instead, tilt the whole thing around, making the whole thing customer friendly. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Hey, Jim.
Any other members of the public who wish to address on parking? Yes, and Nancy, if you could come forward, tell us your name, although you needn't introduce yourself, but you're going to. Thank you.
Could slide into Joanna's seat. Fill out your quorum. So I'm Nancy Carter, 12 Barrett Road in Hanover. And I am very interested in having our parking. I like Jared's comment about the parking garage being our least expensive, but a lot of people perceive it as a difficult place to park or inconvenient or whatever. So therefore we should be getting people down there, filling it up. I am saddened by the fact that for a full year, we haven't really had, because of the sensors and then because of the flooring and the stairs and everything else, we haven't really had use of the facility. But I am very much in favor of, I like Jenny's idea of really looking at all of the options, but that will take time. The Hanover Business Alliance is willing to put funds towards a study that the town of Hanover is doing. The business owners in this town are extremely interested in finding some good solutions to this. We all are, but I mean, they have a particularly vested interest, and they're a group of very thoughtful men and women who, don't necessarily, it's not a grab it all for us kind of situation. It really is partnership with the town. So I'm interested in less expensive alternatives until we find a balance. And as Jenny says, we really haven't studied it long enough to know what the balance is, but let's get the less expensive alternatives in and get people parking downtown, not necessarily, right where we all parked for the meeting tonight in back of town hall. Thank you all for all the hard work that you do.
Thank you, Nancy. And Sharon, if you could give us your name and
Yeah,
address.
it's Sharon Richardson, 35 Cummings Road, Hanover. I love the parking garage. I miss it. I'm wondering, it appeared to be open recently. Am I wrong about that? There was a marquee that I parked somewhere else and then realized it might be open. So is it
So it's open to
temporarily?
leaseholders and we opened
Oh,
it
okay.
for the weekend at the Hopkins Center.
Okay.
For only the spaces that were not part of the construction work.
Okay.
It comes back online on Wednesday.
So it's going to be open
On
on
Wednesday.
Wednesday, okay. That's good to know. And one thing that I've reported multiple times, the best handicap spot is right inside the door on, I think, South Park. And if you want to get a wheelchair out, there's so many cracks and gouges, it's almost impossible to push a wheelchair. And so I'm hoping that I know there's a lot of problems inside the garage, but outside the garage is equally a mess. So I hope that it's where you pay and you walk out. If I'm going
11th
out like opposite Vermonto's, there's just, the sidewalk's just pitted and you can't push person in a wheelchair through there without maybe turning around. So I'm hoping that gets repaired because the parking garage might be great, but then you can't get out or in.
Thank you for sharing that. Sharon, are there other members of the public who wish to speak? Yes, please come forward.
Hello. Hi, my name is Jennifer Packard. I live off Boulevard in Lebanon. I own Molly's in Hanover. So I'm coming at it and I'm gonna say, take a page out of Jarrett's book and say, in a perfect world, if I had it my way, I would agree completely with Jarrett's statement. Being one of the larger employers in downtown Hanover, I currently have 84 team members at Molly's. Some of them will come in here and spend over, $50, $60, $70 a week in parking in the 10-hour lot. And when we all know right now, in general, across the country, bringing people to your employment and trying to hire people, it can be a little difficult. And when you're trying to tell them that the first $80 they made that week before they've even worked an hour has to go to parking, it's a little challenging. So I would give the opinion, looking at the crew that has been working so hard on developing these parking decisions and working on it. I know Lieutenant Swain, Doug, Chris, the whole crew, I know how hard they work on it. And I try really hard to make sure that we're very appreciative of the fact that the problems weren't theirs. They didn't make these problems. So we're trying really hard to always be respectful of the fact that the efforts and the work that they're putting into solving these problems as well as yourselves. But I think having the parking garage at the least on the scale, the cheapest parking, would solve an enormous amount of problems because you take the 30, 40 employees that park behind Molly's in downtown, park in this lot here that would be great parking for customers to come through and shop at the new Revolution and shop at Indigo and shop all through Main Street. They would have much more flexibility if we were to say to our employees, I can tell you without a doubt, if I said to my employees, hey, the 45 of you that have to work today, instead of spending $8 for the lot and go park in the garage for $2, there would not be a question. There'd be 40 empty spots behind Molly's. So something to think about, because I think you're headed in the right direction. But I think, yes, it's inconvenient. If we say that the parking garage is the inconvenient space, then maybe it is a little bit inconvenient. But when you're an employee, I say to my employees, I said, boy, if you can park in the parking garage in the middle of winter and not have to clean off your car at 10:30 at night, not a bad problem to have. But it's a great way to solve that issue. The other issue we've had in the past, and I have addressed it, is, with the downtown employee permit, a lot of times have been told to have them park at the Thompson lot and take the bus, but I can't in good conscience ask my 19-year-old bartender who has a pocket full of cash at 11 o'clock at night to walk from Molly's to Thompson lot because no buses run at 11 o'clock at night. It's just not safe. I wouldn't want my daughter to do it, and I'm not going to ask my bar team to do it as well. So having them be able to park in a lit parking garage in an area where it's safe, because they do leave the restaurant with cash in their pocket. So it's something that I'm very conscientious about, and I encourage them not to park at Thompson for that exact reason, just to keep them safe. So, okay. But thank you for your efforts and the work on it. I do appreciate it.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Hi, Kayla Brannon, 20 School Street, Hanover. I own Maven Salon and I have 10 leases per month, so I pay $1,500 a month. So I'm all in favor of cheaper parking in the garage. And it would be great if there was, because I do supplement parking, it would be great if there was some kind of like punch card or some way that I could pay a portion of like the $6 a day, or, you know, some way that it can be set up. So, because right now I just like pay for the parking passes and, you know, charge them. But so yeah, I like the idea of like keeping it flexible and trying to figure out like what works, and I don't know, having higher prices at different times or different areas. I also live right next to the 10-hour lot, and that lot fills up before 8 a.m. So I know that it's a challenge, but yeah, all in favor of keeping it inexpensive in the garage. So,
Thank you, Kayla.
thank you.
What else on parking? So we do have a full agenda. I'm sorry, is there, Nancy, yes.
I know I've already spoken. One liner, construction workers, it's only gonna get worse. It already is bad, it's only gonna get worse. Where are we in conversations with the college and everybody else about how to handle that? Because even if folks are like parked down Wheelock, if they're parked in town, the trucks are, you know, large enough that they create difficulties. Thank you.
Sure, and kind of beyond the garage, but do you want?
Yeah, it is.
Do you want to address it at all, Robert?
Yeah, I'm happy to give a brief update. The college has launched the pink route and is renting lot 9 out behind Jesse's for their construction worker parking. We have a requirement that they provide us with the license plates of all their construction workers on jobs that are regulated by site plan approval, and they're not permitted to park in town. We are looking at how we implement a proactive enforcement program by hitting it hard at 7 a.m., which is when they typically arrive. They're not hard to miss. The neon yellow shirts are a giveaway. So we're trying to address it on all fronts.
Thank you.
Thank you. Unless there's anything else, I would like to close the public hearing. We do have a motion language, and maybe we can move on that now. Unless the select board has any further comments or questions, the public hearing is closed. Is there a motion with respect to the new rates for the parking garage?
I'll move to approve the proposed parking rates for the garage as a 3-month pilot program to take effect upon the garage's reopening.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further comments? No, we're ready. All right. All those in favor? Aye. That is unanimous. Thank you, Rob. I know we have announcements, but let's move on to ordinance number 38, fair and impartial policing. Thank you for those who came for the parking hearing. As you all know, on November 3rd, the select board held a public hearing to review potential changes to ordinance number 38, fair and impartial policing ordinance. Review was prompted by the passage earlier this year of a new state law, New Hampshire RSA 106P, that requires that local policing ordinances do not hinder cooperation with federal immigration authorities in cases where an individual is already legally detained for a state crime. To be clear, Hanover is not responsible for enforcement of federal immigration laws, which are civil in nature, not criminal matters. Nonetheless, and despite their civil nature, under the new law, detainers issued by federal immigration authorities for inmates, which are those already under arrest or in jail, must be honored by local police. So at issue for the town is how best to respond to the new law, which unusually carries both financial penalty and potential legal action against the town and its officials. So, Rob, I'll turn it over to you with your, you've got some further background and a discussion of the options, but I think the background that you have is important as well.
Certainly. The background is
It's just. Sure.
It's fine. I was just wondering if I had a copy.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So by way of background, as the chair has pointed out, RSA 106P was adopted and it takes full effect January 1. That statute includes potential financial risk to the town of 25% of the total state funds received. We're estimating that to be around $300,000 to $350,000 a year. Approximately 2.5 to 2.9% of the town's portion of the tax rate is a loss of those, would account for those loss of funds. I should also point out that the state of New Hampshire is a Dillon's rule state. It's not a home rule state. What that means is the state can limit what we have authority to regulate, and they did so by passing this statute. We must comply with the statutes or run the risk of being found in violation. In this case, there's clear financial and potential other actions that could cause impacts to the town. I would point out that those who would suffer the consequences are your elected officials and appointed officials if there were actions that were beyond the financial penalties. With that in mind, I put forward 5 options for the board to consider. The first is to leave the ordinance as is. As you may recall, the board directed me to meet with council and review the risks associated with leaving it alone. And we reported back in August. We believe that there's a high risk of fines and injunctive orders if we make no changes. I should point out that our attorney, Laura Spector Morgan, reached out to the ACLU's legal counsel and discussed with them the option of appealing or challenging the lawsuit, the legal changes, the statutory changes. The ACLU felt that that would not be productive, and that it has been upheld elsewhere in the United States, these types of legislative changes. So we went back to the drawing board, made revisions to the ordinance, presented those revisions to the select board. Those revisions were then presented during the public hearing last meeting. And we stand by the recommendations as presented. With one caveat, it was brought to my attention that Roman 6 in our ordinance, the deletions didn't need to be as significant, and Romans 6A and B could be retained as written without impacting the ordinance's compliance with RSA 106P. So with that in mind, option 3 includes retaining Romans 6 minus subparagraph C. Option 4 is to eliminate sections Romans 6 and Romans 7 entirely. I note that there's no real risk of failure to comply, but it would reduce guidance to the department's the police department's interactions with federal agencies. And then option 5, which is to rescind the whole ordinance. That option also has no risk or limited risk because we have nothing that would be considered non-compliant with state law. So as I've outlined it, you have 5 options. I'm sure we could think of 5 or 6 more options. But I think that it's important to realize that we've spent a significant amount of time, 2 attorneys on the town side looked at this. ACLU was asked to comment on it. Your town manager was involved in reviewing and developing the recommendations. And it's now here tonight for you to either take action or make a decision that may warrant an additional public hearing.
I had a question about C. I was looking at 7C, and that it shall not prolong an individual's, detention based on the ICE detainer. And in the context of our fair policing, I find it pretty clear that there's no intention to violate state law in our fair policing ordinance. In the context of the law, they make it really clear that the detainer should not just be based on the ICE detainer. It says, unless otherwise authorized by law, no New Hampshire law enforcement agency shall investigate or take part in investigations related to an inmate's citizen status unless it is subsequent to an alleged violation of New Hampshire law. So that to me is very much in line with our fair policing ordinance. The implicit word is so long shall not prolong an individual's detention based. The implicit word is exclusively on the ICE detainer, like that would maybe be clearer. But I don't find our fair policing ordinance to be out of compliance, since the state law goes through a lot of effort to say that you can't detain someone simply based on an ICE detainer as well. I also wondered if, I know you asked about the idea of an appeal in a lawsuit, just as part of your due diligence. I wondered if council had any opinion about us taking no action. Because I guess from my vantage, our fair policing ordinance is just that, the fair policing ordinance. And if the main idea of the law is that we shall not restrict people from entering, law enforcement agencies from entering into, is it 287? I get the numbers mixed up. And we don't even mention, we definitely don't restrict. There's nothing in here that says do not enter into a 287 agreement. And we're not enacting anything. It also says don't enact anything. We just happen to have a fair policing ordinance already on the books. Just looking at the way the law is written. But it says no state government entity, local government entity, or law enforcement agency shall knowingly enact, issue, adopt, promulgate, enforce, permit, endorse, maintain.
Answer what you're saying.
But the phrase enforce.
Or have a sanctuary policy, which is not a sanctuary policy.
But the verbs you just mentioned, enforce, include maintain as well,
But
right?
or have in effect any sanctuary policy, which we don't have. And then it says, we shouldn't have a blanket policy against honoring immigration detainers for inmates, which we don't have. Right.
Those are, excuse me, Rob, you're about to talk. Those are some good questions, which are pretty subtle from a legal standpoint.
Just like inaction is really different than action. I'm not saying we go and become.
So I think that option one is inaction, right? Leave ordinance 38 as is. So we do have a readout on consequences there, right, Rob?
Our counsel has advised us that there's a potential for fines and injunctive orders, high risk. And,
I guess my question was, it seemed to be based on 7C, which my reading of 7C is I would find it difficult for people to say that our ordinance was written to violate state law or to restrict law enforcement in the way that's the law is intended to work.
I will try to answer the question
Nothing.
to the best of my ability. Council, you pay council for guidance. You can choose to follow that guidance or go in a different direction. Council will defend us if there's a reason to defend us. Her comments are, and I think she said it at the last meeting, was that there's a high risk. And the opportunity to avoid that risk is presented tonight. You know, from my perspective, we have till January 1 before the clocks, you know, the statute goes into effect. If we take action tonight to remove the risk, we have more time to parse this out. If, however, you wish to do something that requires legal counsel review and a different approach than what's been presented tonight, then I think you need another public hearing. You have 2 additional meetings between now and Christmas, or the first of the year.
I think I would have to go back and watch the tape, but I'm pretty sure she said the high risk was if we appeal, that we wouldn't win that.
No.
I'm not sure that we asked, like when she was here in the room, about inaction.
Oh, when she was here in the room or
Yeah.
on Zoom?
On Zoom, sorry, on Zoom, because Joanna suggested it at the end.
I'm sorry, I may have missed it.
Yeah, Joanna suggested inaction at the end. It wasn't part of our discussion then.
What's the definition of inaction? Just leaving ordinance 38 the way it is?
Because it was well crafted.
Um,
But yeah, because I think like suing the state or appealing or, you know, doing something is very different than maintaining an ordinance. And then for the state to say, oh, they really violated that, they'd have to have proof that we did that, and I don't find it in the text of our. It's not easy to prove that we're out to violate the law in the text of our fair policing. They actually go and explain how police don't have the power to detain people solely for immigration or ask about immigration status.
Can I change the subject slightly? I just want to throw out a question about, I see what you're saying, Jenny.
Yeah.
I think we should come back to that. Option 3 is interesting. Basically, all that is suggested is to eliminate C. And the rest of the text, there were a couple of other changes, but they were pretty darn minor, as I recall.
In the
ordinance.
Yes.
We added a couple words to make it clearer. And
we added in a vehicle.
Yeah, that's a really important thing. Yeah.
We deleted number 5 in.
What was 5 again, please?
In preamble.
Preamble.
Oh, yeah, okay, not too important.
And we deleted 7 and rewrote.
So under option 3, just to be clear, we would amend section 6, and the previously recommended changes with respect to 7 would also be included in option 3. Is that
correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
I misunderstood.
I wasn't clear in my
No,
guidance.
that's great. And do I have a copy of the, no, I don't. I have to go back and look for it.
I'll send it to you.
I can find
So I know I am in possession of a petition from Robert Keane and many of the signatories to which I think are here. So thank you. And that petition recommends inaction, which is what was just talked about. I don't usually have prepared statements, but this is sufficiently complicated and there's enough to it that I, with the indulgence of the board, I'd like to read some thoughts that I had on this. I'm speaking not as chair just as a member to advance the discussion. So, again, with all of you here, for the better part of an hour at the public hearing on November 3rd, I thought it was a spirited, deeply felt discussion about the best way to move forward. It was civil, intelligent. Thank you. It showed, I think, really the best of democracy working at the local level. And I think, importantly, fueling the discussion either implicitly and sometimes explicitly was outrage over the well-documented, seemingly unconstitutional detention and deportation practices at the federal level. Those practices are cruel, void of due process, and very likely unlawful. I think in determining steps for the town, the decision of rescission or doing nothing or amendment, I think much of the focus of our discussion has been on the mandated change to the ordinance, and somewhat lost are the virtues of the remaining majority of the existing ordinance. And I think those are important. Those are grounded in the aim to prevent biased policing and discriminatory practices by the Hanover Police Department. And by the way, this is not a commentary about the Hanover Police Department, which I think is extremely well trained. And I think adheres to these principles out of moral conviction and good policing. So but in the context of what we're discussing, it's not about the HPD per se. But the intent of that ordinance is to ensure that all HPD members honor the human and constitutional rights of individuals, in addition to instructions to conduct themselves professionally, which, as I said, I think they do inherently, but courteously, with dignity toward all persons. There's a specific prohibition of bias. This is very important. The use of personal characteristics, race, ethnic background, color, age, gender, sexual orientation, religion, or economic status as the sole basis for detention or disparate treatment is strictly prohibited. Very important. With respect to immigration-related matters specifically, revised ordinance in compliance with the new law will importantly retain the following provisions. This is super important. Hanover Police are not authorized to enforce non-criminal federal immigration laws. They cannot stop or detain individuals solely to determine immigration status. Procedurally, officers should not request identification from motor vehicle occupants unless there's a defensible basis for suspicion of a crime. These are extremely important to maintain. The merit of unbiased policing provisions on the ordinance, plus the remaining prohibitions against immigration-related enforcement work, my opinion, speaking as one individual, make a powerful argument for keeping a revised ordinance in place versus the option of rescission or letting the existing ordinance stand. These provisions not only provide for uninterrupted accountability and oversight of Hanover Police, but knowing this ordinance remains in place also, very importantly, brings clarity and comfort to residents, to our workforce, to visitors. As a relatively diverse town in the context of New Hampshire, this is also a travel destination and home to many international guests, students. Having this clarity is very important. Keeping the ordinance unchanged could maybe withstand a challenge. It seems like our council is suggesting it's very unlikely to succeed. I think not having the clarity of a lawful ordinance on the books is problematic because the HPD is going to have to withhold, as you know, as Rob said, we are a Dillon state, meaning New Hampshire law governs. So when it comes to ICE detainers, they're going to have to follow New Hampshire RSAs. So against that, I think it's very important for us to have an ordinance on the books that is lawful, that people can point to, that those communities who may be concerned about all of these issues feel some comfort that there's a lawful ordinance in town on the books that they can take comfort in. And I know that we want to make a statement with respect to our values. I know many of us are very upset about what's happening at the federal level. I think there are other ways that we can move forward. The HB 511, which passed in the spring, passed by only 6 dissenting votes. You all know the New Hampshire legislature is 435 members. 6 voted against it. This was a compromise legislation. It's not perfect. It's probably not what some of us in this room like, but it's the law. It's difficult for us to object to lawfulness in an unlawful way. Like, we're going to ignore the law because we're upset about others ignoring the law. That seems to me, as a single member, not a wise course of action. You know, we are a country where rule of law and due process are important. We too must respect this. And I don't think, given that only 6 members voted against this in the House, that this is the bridge we die on. Sorry, that was a little bit of a speech. I don't really like to do that, but that's where I'm coming out on this.
I think our ordinance is lawful. So I think it is lawful.
I'm not sure our council agrees.
I disagree.
Yeah, I'm not sure what question the council was asked. I did not ask council that question. It was not asked. Last time we were here, we were told very explicitly that we needed all of those words in the ordinance, which are no longer, that's not even on the table anymore. All of the wordsmithing that we needed to, like, it depends what questions were asked of council.
So that's still on the table. That's option 2. Option 2 is what we looked at last time.
Right, but there was a sense that to make our ordinance lawful, we would have to include all of that language. Now, we can make the ordinance lawful by just excluding a little section. So those are already different, right? So there's a lot of ambiguity. There's a lot of ambiguity in that I read our ordinance and there's nothing that disagrees. There's nothing that disagrees with the state law. There's nothing that prohibits police from working with ICE when somebody has been arrested and detained and has a warrant from ICE. There's nothing that prevents them from doing that if they have arrested them and detained them. And if we change it, then we've changed it. And we've taken action. And it puts us in a really different situation. The state would have to prove that our law is unlawful. It would have to prove that we've taken some unlawful action in doing this. And I just don't, every letter says unless, unlawful by the state. And the one place that says you can't do this based on an ICE is in agreement with what they say. They say you cannot detain someone basically based on an ICE detainer. You have to also have been arrested them criminally, right? In their HBS 1. There's a lot of confusion. Like, there's further confusion with, there's just other confusion. There's other laws that we have.
So you're saying there's
in New Hampshire.
There's conflicting regulations, correct?
I think there's reason to believe that HB 511 conflicts with some of our other laws, just in the way they define inmate, which is not as you defined it earlier. And is the way, we've already talked about this last time, it's not least.
Would it be worth getting council to address those questions?
Well, I think certainly at the end of this discussion, we're going to circle back with council, I think for sure. So that's on the table. So let's continue the conversation.
So Jenny's questions need to be answered.
Yes, but I think
I'm not, but so we can move on now.
Yeah.
But we need to.
Yes, I mean, I do think, Jenny, with respect to option 2, which was as proposed at the last meeting, the additional options for amendment are slightly differently characterized as to risk. So I think, I personally could live with option 3, amend 6 as follows with keeping A and B. I think that's important language that gets to, I think, a lot of the sentiment that many people feel. So I know it's hard to follow if you don't have the exhibits in front of you, but.
One question.
Yep.
What, was option 3 presented to council?
Yes.
And she agreed?
Yes. Right at the
Thank
bottom,
you.
she says risk.
Got
Option
I
3,
didn't know if Rob wrote that or if she did.
I agree with you, Carrie. I mean, option 3 really reserves everything. The interest and is very, the whole spirit of the ordinance is preserved with option 3. You have an interesting point though, Jenny, meaning that's taking action and you're advocating for.
I'm advocating
action.
for not taking
Yeah.
action
Interesting
and
point.
putting the onus on this.
Interesting point.
If the state is gonna take action, they would have to take, the burden of action is that's a significant thing. That's.
Yeah.
And I think our ordinance is written in a lawful, or I think our ordinance is lawful. And it coincides with theirs.
I have to say, I mean, option 3 is very compelling.
I mean, they say no New Hampshire law enforcement agency shall investigate or take part in investigations related to an inmate's citizenship status unless it is subsequent to an alleged violation of New Hampshire law. And we have basically a shorthand version in that bullet, which is made clear by all the other bullets that's not the only, 7C is not the only section, in that ordinance that says it shall not prolong an individual's detention based on the ICE detainer. Because it has to be based on criminality. And that's made clear from the rest of the ordinance.
No, but prolong is the key thing. So an officer, it says in our ordinance currently, an officer shall not prolong the individual's detention based on the ICE detainer. An ICE detainer is the federal government asking to prolong their detention, which is subsequent to a crime that has been committed. So they're two separate things, right? We have a crime, which our police department is tasked with and has a duty to detain people for. And then we have the immigration detainer, as it says in HB 511, which is a request from the federal government to prolong their detention. So that way they can be investigated if there is a facially sufficient warrant and all the other words. So I think we're talking about two separate things here. And while I have the floor,
yeah.
I'm probably the dumbest person in the room right now, and I can admit that. And I've spent a lot of my career being that guy, where
Which guy?
the dumbest guy,
Oh, come
or
on.
the guy that is
Come on.
not the smartest on a certain thing. Okay, I was a helicopter pilot, and I had mechanics that were far smarter than me, even though they didn't go to college or whatever, far smarter than me, and I knew it. And when one of them told me, don't go fly this airplane, I didn't pull out the book and start lawyering it up, okay? I said, all right, I believe you. In this case, I think we have a skilled attorney who has given us sage guidance on how to maintain the spirit of what our constituents want to have, which is a fair and impartial policing policy, while also being in agreement and compliance with state law. And I think we should do that. I think we can go on and on. We can spend tons of time looking at every word in this ordinance while not trying to accomplish or not accomplishing any of the things that we should be trying to accomplish, like more housing, like better parking, like fixing Main Street. And the more that we go on with this, the less we're doing our jobs in serving our townspeople and getting these things done that we can actually get done. I think we should take the advice of council and we should move on.
Would you be supportive of option, that could go in several directions. Option 3 retains some of the original language. Option 2 is as proposed at the last meeting. And then option 4 is eliminating sections 6 and 7 entirely.
And is minimal risk lower than low?
Yes, so I would, I'm sorry.
Option 2 versus option 3.
Yeah. Same.
Is minimal risk lower than low?
Low is low and minimum is low, sorry.
Wait, they're both low?
They're both low.
So they're equal words.
Yes.
Minimal and
I
low.
apologize.
Okay, so there's not significant additional risk to retain section 6A and B language, which is, I think, in many respects registering our discontent with the situation that we're in and questioning some of the lawfulness.
It's very powerful language.
It is very powerful. So I think it is an expression of our concern as a community. So I think it's important to put that in.
I'm sorry,
Option 3.
option 3.
He was asking you what option you support, if you support any of them.
Me?
Yeah.
I can support 3. I do support 2, just based on the fact that that was the, and am I to understand correctly that the primary recommendation is option 2, and then our alternate is option 3?
Yes. Well, you have 5, but your staff and council is giving you 2 and 3 as the preferred options.
I think that language is important, and I would advocate keeping it.
So you refer option 3.
Rob, not to complicate matters, but that are already complicated, but on option 3, there's an A, a B, and a C. C, which is eliminated, which I'm going to just read. It's because an ICE detainer is not based upon probable cause that a crime has been committed. If an officer in the department receives an ICE detainer for an individual who has been detained or arrested, the officer shall not prolong the individual's detention based on the ICE detainer. Another way of saying the officer shall not prolong detention is the officer shall release the. So that I think is the, my opinion. I'm not a lawyer, but I think that's the one that's particularly contravention of the new law. But the potential language you put forward at last time with respect to section 6 does give specific guidance. If an officer in the department receives an immigration detainer for an inmate in custody, this gets to the question of, are we providing sufficient guidance for our law enforcement? The department shall comply with the detainer to the extent required under RSA 106P, provided the detainer is facially sufficient, supported by probable cause, accompanied by a lawful warrant. Detention may only be prolonged if safe to do so and consistent with state and federal law. It strikes me that that is the new C that could still exist under option 3, where C has been struck, and it gives specific guidance as to what we can do. We still register our sort of discontent in A and B, but give specific guidance to our police department on what they shall do. Now that's as opposed to being silent.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's adding. When I say it is adding stuff, but I'm not sure it's valuable addition.
My worry with that is if we leave A and B and take out C, we're basically saying ICE detainers are wrong and we shouldn't be we shouldn't be following them. And then we leave out C, which says because it's not based upon probable cause, they shall not be observed, right? So we set the stage in A and B, and then in C, we say, this is why you shouldn't do it. But if we just take out C, we're basically setting the stage and then leaving it up to whomever to make that decision. And I don't think that's wise.
So you would you would prefer specific guidance, for instance, as drafted under the original proposal for section 6.
Well, then what you can do is combine them.
That's what I'm putting forward as an option. As a variant on option 3.
Yeah, that's a great option.
I think that actually, I think this is kind of getting at the root of what I find to be so problematic.
Because it's action.
Because that contradicts with their law, because they say an inmate is somebody who is in police custody and they don't define custody. So we had 89 people in police custody on May 1st last year. We have anybody potentially in custody the moment you're stopped for a traffic stop. We have anybody stopped for jaywalking. You're in police, are you in police custody? It's not defined. They define inmate as in police custody. They don't define what custody is. We had that discussion with our counsel, right? They go to great lengths to say that they don't need to even fill out their administrative warrant to have it be followed. So if we say that it has to be like a lawful, factually correct warrant, then that's in contradiction with the law. Now we've taken action to make our law sort of compliant and we've made it not compliant. There's contradictions in the language that go beyond this law that are about detaining people. And you're not allowed to detain people unlawfully in New Hampshire. We have laws about that. I don't think we want to muddy the waters there. I like our fair policing law.
Yes, but wait.
I didn't define inmate. Laura Spector Morgan did. She defined it as in custody and she defined custody as undefined.
So
Are we trying to make a motion tonight or are we gonna?
no, we're down one member. And so what I'd like to do is see if there is some sort of consensus. I just feel very strongly that this ordinance, having a lawful ordinance on the books gives support to our at-risk population. If you have something that's not clear, it drives people underground. They're subject to blackmail. We have worked very hard to build trust between our police force and a number of these community members. And if they feel they can no longer dialogue with the police, it puts them in a very risky, vulnerable position. I don't think it's safe. So I think having a lawful ordinance, we are agents of the state. This is the new law. I think we need to be responsive to it, and I think we need to keep our communities that are at risk safe. And ambiguity as to whether the ordinance is correct, it's not correct, throw the whole thing out. I think increases the risk to these populations.
I agree.
I agree with you, although I question what you just said. We are agents of the state.
Well,
We're
Cordell,
not a humble
Johnson.
state. I get that part.
Right.
I've always understood that.
Yes, but we're subject to the laws of the state.
As is every citizen in New Hampshire.
Yes.
But we're not really agents of the state.
I think that's what Cordell, I think all right, we're probably not agents of the state, but we are,
We are a subdivision of the state.
subdivision of the state, excuse me. Sorry. we're
Yeah, the
subdivision of
town.
state.
And we do take an oath to not violate the state laws.
Yes.
Is why you will-
Not agents. Yes, we're not agents. Yes, to be clear, we're not agents. We are a subdivision of the state. Thank you. But I really, again, feel very strongly that, having lawful ordinance that everyone can understand what the rules are is important. This was, HB 511 was only 6 members voted against it. So it's not what this community, I think, wants, but it's what perhaps the legislature could live with. And I think we need to find a way that we can make it work for this town. And at the same time, I think we can reinforce our values. There's things that we can do to make our dissatisfaction clear. I think we can think about ways to make citizens, immigrants, visitors feel more welcome, whether it's, again, taking a crack at fair and impartial policing next year when we have more time, ways we can make Hanover a more welcoming community, ways we can celebrate our diversity, the immigrant experience, coming up on our 250th anniversary. There's things that we can do. Building housing, that would be key amongst them. Yes. So I would make a recommendation for option 3, either with A and B as presented, or with C, which is really the language from last time that was retained under section 6, which I think, Rob, you know what I'm talking about, as a specific guidance for the police force. That's my view. We're not going to take a vote tonight, but
I will have in your packet for the next meeting both options and the full text of the ordinance.
okay.
Yeah, can we get,
You want-
so the ordinance is written?
Yep. With the either or.
With
With the either or scenario that was just.
And then
Yeah.
along with the state law, which is only like a page, right?
And it was in the last packet.
Yeah,
It was, thank you.
yeah, just like so everyone
And
and the viewing public has it. Yeah, and my concern is that it shifts the onus onto us if we take action. And that we're like shadow boxing, and there are these contradictions that the state needs to figure out. And us taking action puts us in a worse position. And also like it shifts the onus onto us rather than the other way around.
Jenny, do you mean that the contradiction around custody or
Around detention, yeah.
detention?
There's very specific laws we have in the state of New Hampshire about how long you can detain someone. And based on what alleged crime they've committed. And it has to be at least a Class B misdemeanor or higher. And you have to be booked into typically a correctional facility, right? Or held for over 24 hours. So that's really different than not defining custody, which, and some Class B misdemeanors are, you can be charged with assault and not actually do anything physically. There are certain things that we wouldn't consider necessarily very criminal, just like disliked.
Jenny, do you have specific questions for Laura to get addressed before next meeting?
Yeah, my question is, how does the burden of proof shift if we do nothing, right? And really, is it reasonable to read 6C as though there's the imaginary exclusively in there, because that's what's consistent with the rest of the ordinance? Like, does this read as a law? Can this be read as a lawful ordinance?
And kind of going off Jenny's question about custody, is there a definition, a state definition of custody? How is it?
Well, and the law really used the word inmate. Right.
Well,
So-
it says inmate, hold on, let me find it. It says inmate means a person in the custody of a law enforcement agency. And so what is in the custody?
Yeah, so that's another to get some clarity around.
We did ask her that last time. I mean, I asked her that last time and she said it was not defined. Could ask her again. Inmate is defined differently in other laws.
Sure it is.
All right. Thank you. Thank you all for attending. We had the public hearing before.
So yeah, I guess that's the third question. It's just, were we to add, I forget the number, in number 2, all of that words, how would that make it, would it be lawful still with the RSAs about detention? I can get the number for you if you don't have it. About when a police can detain someone.
Could a question for clarity be asked?
Yes, Bob, go ahead.
Bob Keane. Did someone come to the town from the state to say we were out of sync with the law? Why are we talking about this whole thing? Did someone, the Attorney General, say you're out of sync with the law?
Okay.
And so I'm just curious.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Yes, Rob.
That's a great question.
So I will frame my answer as follows. Our police department has been present where grants have been discussed, and they've been told directly that we are not eligible because of this ordinance. Our police department has been informed by people at the state that we are a sanctuary city based on our ordinance. So I'm not trying to be obtuse here. I'm trying to be clear. We have a lot of construction going on that has a lot of employees here that run the risk of being challenged because of the color of their skin. We have a lot of students here, grad students and postdocs and others here that run the risk of being challenged by the color of their skin. And my concern is that we put the town at risk, the community at risk, and everybody else that's here at risk if we don't take action. I'm not an elected official. You get to make the hard decision. I will carry it out. And we'll get you the answers you need. But at this point, my concerns are on the record for you to consider.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. So we have, I understand it's 8:30. We have a lot of other agenda items. Very quickly, I'll allow a couple of questions and then we're gonna have to move on. So very quickly, if you could come forward, Dina. And I apologize, but we really are short on time.
Thank you for your deliberation.
Do I have to sit?
Yes, and please, if we could just be quick.
Dana Romero, 27 Cummings Road, Hanover. My question is this, I'm looking at option 3, and can a town stipulate that if ICE were to present a detainer, that it needs to be, that you would only honor a judicial warrant?
I think there is language about the detainer. I think it has to be facially sufficient, supported by probable cause, accompanied by a lawful warrant. Now, what do all those words mean? I don't know.
Because there's a difference between a judicial and administrative warrant.
Yeah, the HB 511 referred to a warrant from ICE. So those are administrative warrants. They're not judicial warrants.
Right.
So that is in the state law.
So we're required to honor administrative warrants.
If someone has been placed in custody, but we don't know what that means.
We are prohibited from having an ordinance that instructs the police not to.
Yeah.
The police don't have to honor, but the select board can instruct them not to honor.
Okay. And my other question is 106P, the way I understand that, I looked it up, and effective July 21st, 2025. And it looks like the main point is whether we enter into the 287G program, and that we can choose not to enter into that program.
The police department can choose not to enter
Right.
into it. The town cannot have an ordinance that prohibits it.
Yes, I get that. Okay. And my last question is asking for clarification, if I can find that on. I'm sorry, what I had written to you, Carrie. The removal of conflicting language would reduce guidance around departmental interactions with federal agencies. Can you just clarify that?
I think I responded to you this morning.
Yes, yeah.
It's on the screen. It's too small to read clearly.
I was just wondering if you could amplify that a little more, what that meant.
So, I mean, the challenge here is that we're instructing the police to do something in C. We're instructing the police to do something or not to do something in paragraph C, as shown in strikeout above on the screen. And by deleting it, we're removing that guidance.
Okay.
However, it brings us into.
Okay, thank you. I very much appreciate the way you outlined all the options that was, and the risk. That was very helpful. 2 points, and I know I have to finish up, but one, I know we need to respect laws, but Carrie, we need to be careful because there's some laws that are not just. I mean, we've had that in our own history. And I appreciate Rob explaining that we have to honor that state law takes precedence over us. I find it very hypocritical of our legislature that when federal law was proposing certain requirements about firearms, New Hampshire said, our state law takes precedence, not federal law. So complicated system. Thank you for grappling with this.
Yes.
I know there are other things that you feel are more important and your priority, but the people behind me who came tonight feel very strongly this is important.
I totally
So,
appreciate
thank
that.
you.
Thank you all for coming. So, is there any, okay, so we are going to talk about this in 2 weeks' time. So we will have that meeting coming up, and I do, yes, go ahead. December 8th. So.
Comments then?
I'm super quick.
Okay, so, yes, they are. Yeah, so let's do this. Please feel free to email the board and Rob with comments, questions, concerns. We are going to reconvene December 8th. We have a number of other important agenda items to get to. So I'm sorry, but it's given the hour and the remaining agenda, we are going to have to move on. But we look forward to seeing you. Thank you all for your participation. Thank you.
May I suggest we skip over the announcements and recognitions and move on to the human resources software?
Yes. Yes.
I'm going to promote Tina to join us, our HR director, if she's willing to come on by. Let me stop the share so we can have it. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Tina, can you hear me?
Yes, I just needed to get my thing unmuted.
Bear with me, we're on very loud.
Yes.
Can you speak to me again?
Can you hear me now?
Let's do a little loud. We'll try that.
How about now?
Perfect. For those who haven't had the opportunity to meet Tina Canfield is our HR director. She's counting the time she's been here. So how long have you been here?
The whole time.
No, I meant since you're new hire.
Oh, I thought you just meant tonight. I've been here since August 18th, so I think I've officially hit 3 months tomorrow.
So welcome tonight, Tina. I'm going to share the screen, and I want to start this off by saying Tina's hit the ground running pretty hard and trying to address some gaps in our HRIS system. We currently don't have an integrated system. We use NeoGov to advertise and onboard people, and then everything else is done manually for creating the employment records in our accounting software. NeoGov is not a simple system to use, and Tina decided to jump in with both feet and try to tackle this. With that in mind, Tina's got a recommendation tonight. I'm bringing it to you tonight because we'd like to go forward with this, but I don't want a surprise that hits the books in our fiscal year 27 budget cycle, where you would see a significant jump in software for HR software. With that in mind, Tina, would you like to go through the information in the packet that's up on the screen?
Sure.
Or would you like to speak specifically to your experience with the HRIS software search and how you landed where you landed?
Sure. So what I guess I can start with is how I came to this recommendation. So I did some research online and I ended up going back to NeoGov to see what they could offer us as a full package instead of just the ATS software that we're using, as well as looking at Bamboo HR and then another HR software, which was Clay HR. And all three of them were capable of doing what we need, which is the entire life cycle of the employee. However, Bamboo was more user-friendly overall. And so that's why I have really am pushing the recommendation on this one. It's also a little bit more seamless for the end user, which I think considering what our employees' technology ranges are, I think it's important that we try to make sure that every user has the ability to use this when we're asking them to change the way that they do their day-to-day stuff. So with that in mind, Bamboo HR, I've done many, many hours of meetings and trainings. I sat through lots and lots of demos. I pulled in different employee groups and had them demo different sections. And overwhelmingly, compared to the two that I had them demo, this was the front runner. So let's see. Let me scroll back up here a little. So the idea behind this software is that we can track the life cycle of the employee from the time that we start recruiting all the way to the end when they decide to either retire from us or move on. And some of the inefficiencies that I have found so far in the processes that we have are the amount of time it takes to process a new hire, as well as making sure everybody is consistent with how they do that. So some of the key benefits of using an integrated software like this is it enhances efficiency, compliance, accuracy, and there's also benefit too when we do open enrollment, because we can integrate our open enrollment initiatives through the software by having the employees go in and do an a la carte shopping rather than having to sit through confusing paperwork that we've been doing historically. Let me see. It's hard to see, my screen's small, sorry. Oh, thank you. So some of these time savings are going to be in the HR department, allowing us to onboard more efficiently, and that's by interfacing with a new employee right from the get-go. And this will also expedite how fast we can get the employees started, which is always a benefit, especially when we're facing shortages in departments, similar to how mine was.
I think, unless there are specific questions for Tina, I just simply want you to know that we've gone through this exercise. We're going to test it to make sure we can fully integrate it with our accounting. What's the technical name for yours? ERP. We currently, I don't, but Ellen's office keys in every timesheet or imports Excel sheets or other software. So we have 3 different timesheet software plus a half a dozen different paper timesheets, plus some spreadsheets that are imported. So human error, is real and needs to be corrected regularly. Our hope is that these address all of those, allow us to get rid of the other timesheet software as we build this out, allow us to eliminate the errors that we've seen in the past, and overall have a time savings and financial benefit to the town.
Fantastic. It seems like a real step forward. The one thing I noted in the operational efficiencies, and I couldn't help by noticing, it says generates automated performance evaluations, which would be super nice, but I wonder if that's really practical. Maybe that's as to attendance and things like that, or.
No, this actually has a performance evaluation system in it. Tina, can you speak to that?
Yeah, so we can structure the performance evaluations for every department based off of the department's uniqueness, and they will generate on an anniversary period. It'll alert the manager that someone's due for their eval, and then they can go in and process that eval and have a electronic back and forth with the employee, as well as do a sit down once everything is compiled to go over it.
Wow. Okay. Is that somewhat aspirational, or is there an intention there?
Yeah, I think there are definitely some departments that are more consistent, I think, in doing those performance evaluations. And I think it behooves us to do them for, just everybody when they work, they want to know how they're doing. They kind of want to have that, this is where I stand, where can I improve, those kinds of things. And I know that in some of the CBAs that the, annual merit raises and stuff are supposed to coincide. So it just is a nice way to get everybody on the same page and be consistent and just have that as an indicator of performance so that people know where they need to go.
Terrific. It's great.
Police, fire, and public works and grounds at Parks and Rec all go through annual performance evaluations as part of the CBA.
Terrific. Thanks, Tina. Any other questions? No. Thank you very much. Sorry, you got a long, interesting select board meeting to attend. That was great.
I'm happy to attend. It's all interesting.
Okay. Thanks, Tina.
With that in mind, before Tina leaves, I would like to, unless you're opposed, I'm going to give the green light to proceed with this. The risk is a month contract. We're not committing to an annual fee, so it's a fairly low risk. The upfront cost, though, is about $6,000 to build it out. I believe I know we have the money given some cost savings we're seeing elsewhere.
The cost is I think in line with what ADP, or I use ADP, and it's a little cheaper, but it's pretty similar. So I'm comfortable. And I can't believe that stuff that you guys do now, it's insane in 2025 that you guys are still this should.
And we have quite, complicated structures in our timekeeping. So this really would move us forward. I think that's one aspect. And then I think the other aspect is the self-service for benefit selection. That has provided great challenges over the last couple of years. So this would move us forward.
I'll end my input on this by saying that one of my colleagues used a quote that we under-research certain software packages with hopes that we can figure out how to make it work. HR has been something that's been on the table since my arrival now in my 10th year. And NeoGov was an attempt to do that and it was never successful. So I thank Tina for taking this on and everybody that participated in the demos. It was a lot of time and effort, but I think it was well worth it. So unless there's opposition, we're going to move forward fairly quickly.
Anything that makes the benefit selection easier. Like, I feel like people you almost need like a big couple hours off. Everyone just gets together, goes through it, because it's like a bit overwhelming. That can name all of your beneficiaries, like who's gonna, I don't know, get my rock collection. Horrible. Thank you for doing all that.
Thank you, Tina. We're excited to have you on board. I know it's been a good month. Terrific. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. Good night. You're welcome to stay. I'm just gonna demote you.
Oh, well, then I'll stay.
Speaking of staying, thank you, Alan. So I think we turn next, Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, but discussion of tax warrant, health insurance rates, and 2025 CPIU.
Let me get the right screen.
And I can start by talking about the tax warrant because I don't believe we have any exhibits in the packet for the tax warrant. So this in your signature package is the warrant for the 2025 tax year. So our tax rate was finalized late on Friday, giving us the opportunity to create, and I shouldn't say us, but Tracy and our new tax collector who has stepped right into the role. We're very excited. And so they were able to create the warrant for your signature tonight. So the tax rate, the overall tax rate where we landed is $12.78. So that's hard to compare to the 2024 tax rate, which was $17.68. I will note that both of those rates don't include the fire districts, which vary depending on your location. But again, that tax rate is made up of the municipal rate, the county rate, the local education, and the state education. So overall, in total terms, as opposed to just the rate per thousand, overall, our tax burden is going up by about 3.5% year over year. I think that is, compared to other communities, and I think that there was a lot of effort that went into keeping that increase at a very palatable rate. I will say that that 3.5% rate increase includes a 12% increase in our county tax. So our Grafton County taxes went up by almost $475,000 year over year.
And you said 12 point.
So the county tax rate increase?
No, I'm sorry, the overall.
So the overall is 3.5.
No, the tax rate.
Oh, I'm sorry.
1278.
1278.
Got it, thank you.
And but the municipal portion of that was only up to 1%, something like that.
Yes, just over 1%. And we'll be looking at that as the base for comparison for a first look at the 27 budget. But again, so the municipal rate did come in at $3.30 per thousand.
And what does that compare against? I know it's crazy with the revaluation.
Right, so I mean, it's very difficult to compare, but it was $4.64 for the 24 tax year. And again, the impact on individual property owners will vary depending on whether the assessment increased in line with the overall average, was higher or lower than that overall average. So I'm sure a lot of people, well, the bills will go out, but I'm sure a lot of people will be crunching numbers and trying to figure out what the impact on their own expenses are.
Okay, thank you for that. Any questions about the tax rate? No, okay.
All right, so again, that $3.30 for the municipal rate becomes our sort of starting point to compare what we might be seeing for the fiscal year 27 budget. And we use the same process this year that we did last year. Last year, of course, was the first year that we formally adopted the zero-based budget approach to the budget. And prior to that year, it was the practice of the town to, around this time of year, to really establish a sort of a corridor or a range of property tax increases that the town would target to stay within. And we are trying to get away from setting a range of expectations, but rather asking each of our departments to really start from zero and take a look at what their requirements are for fiscal year 27 to deliver the services that both the select board's priorities, our master plan, and what our residents are asking us to deliver. So I think that's a really important point. And so in this exercise, using sort of a quick model, I have dropped in assumptions for fiscal year 27 for increases that only capture those items that we're contractually obligated to provide. And those come from the collective bargaining agreements. They come from the cost of healthcare benefits. And I will also touch on our insurance costs. So starting out of the gate, looking at our salaries and wages, we have in our collective bargaining agreements targeting our cost of living increase to the September CPIU for the Northeast region. And this year that increase is 3.1%. That's compared to 3.4% that was used last year. And then that was the cost of living increase that was given to all the employees as of July 1 of this year. Also in the collective bargaining agreements is 2% step increase. In the DPW contract that started out in the first year at 75 cents and has scaled with the cost of living increase. So that would be 78 cents for fiscal year 27. Now, when we look at the quick model, you'll see that I've used a 4.1% increase for those items that scale based on this. And that's because on average, interestingly, across the board, we do phase the steps and it's about half the year. So it's instead of 1%, 2%, you'll see the 1% added to the 3.1. So again, in the quick model, we're really scaling and adding on to the salaries, and wages, and the NHRS contributions, that 4.1% increase. There are a couple of other items in the collective bargaining agreements that don't, they do have an impact and are included, but at a higher level. So the other large piece that I want to speak about is our healthcare costs. And we do have the great news that our healthcare premiums for 2 out of 3 of our medical plans are going down. Which is
How's that
Never happened.
possible?
it's radical.
Dartmouth just went up like 30%.
And, you know, we've heard about the sort of excess payments that some of the school districts had to make because of, you know, making up for shortfalls by insurers. So this is a great benefit to the town. And I don't want to diminish that through my next comments, but just to make sure everyone understands, the way we provide benefits to our employees is we have a driver plan, and that driver plan is Access Blue, and those premiums did go down by 4.3%. Every employee who qualifies for coverage gets allocated between 85 and 88% of that Access Blue premium. So to follow on, our Luminos plan premiums also decreased by 6.3%. That isn't a benefit that will accrue to the town, but it certainly will accrue to the employees. Because although the amount that employees are allocated will go down by that 4.3%, those individuals who elect Luminos will actually have a larger benefit. And there is, for the Access Blue with deductible, that premium did go up by 4.3%. Not a high impact to the employees, but it will impact one employee. Our dental premiums went up by 4.4%. And in addition, and in these calculations, this is the third year of the 3-year phasing in of providing dental support at the same level as medical. So this year we will go to the full 85 to 88% contribution of the dental premium. Now, the actual increase or decrease that we experience in the budget will really be dependent on what medical plans that employees actually elect. And one of the big impacts on fiscal year 26 spending is the fact that between fiscal year 25 and 26, we went from 21 individuals on Luminos to 62. That means because with the Luminos plan, along with the 85 to 88% of the premium, we also provide HSA contributions. And those contributions are $1,500 for a single and $4,500 for a 2-person or family plan. So in that additional adoption, the town will incur across all of our funds, $145,000 additional cost of our healthcare. So, and that was not budgeted, but as you know, when we took a look at the Q1 performance, we still are on track and within where we would expect to be in spending our compensation budget. So that's partially due to continued open positions. But again, as we budget for 27, that's not an assumption we can make. So when we take a look and we'll.
The 145,000 represents the budget to budget impact of the Luminos uptake, or
The HSA contribution.
HSA contribution. Okay.
It is the impact of the additional adoption of Luminos, and it's not a difference. Well, actually, yes, it is a budget to budget because it isn't in the 26 budget, but is also going to be a delta in cost between the budget and what we're actually
Experiencing.
Yes, experiencing.
Projecting a little more of that for this budget year.
And, you know, just as sort of as a placeholder, this model that I put together did assume an additional 20 employees adopting Luminos. And because right now about 1/3 of our Luminos adopters are in the general fund. So remember that when we take a look and speak to the municipal tax rate, which is sort of the punchline here, that really is associated with our general fund spending. Because any of those costs in water or sewer or parking are all borne within these funds, not by the taxpayers. Another area that we actually saw significant change that is contractual is in our insurance costs. So our property and liability insurance is increasing by 38% or almost $75,000. So, yes, and what's interesting is that for the past 3 years, the town has had the benefit of operating under a CAP program. And now I'm going to forget the actual what it stands for, but basically we had an agreement with Primex that if we committed to staying with them for 3 years, that they committed to a cap on the increase in premiums for our workers' comp and our property and liability. And that cap was 7% for workers' comp and 8% for property and liability. That program was discontinued. And for a moment, I had a little bit of a worry that I had missed enrolling in something, but that was not the case. They discontinued it. And I think that there's a lot being written about the challenges that insurers have with being solvent. So this is, again, the increases are based on member exposure, claims experience, rising costs of reinsurance, and medical payments, specifically with workers' comp, and increased contingency reserves. So the impact for property and liability to the general fund is just under $40,000 across the entire town. Again, that's $75,000. Now, our workers' comp rate actually only went up by 5.7%, which is great news across the whole town. But the impact to taxpayers, interestingly enough, there was a shift in the allocation or burden between departments. And that's something, again, that Primex provides us. And that's based on, again, experience, payroll levels. And so because of a shift in allocation, the workers' comp burden that's being borne by the general fund is also going up by about $40,000. So overall, between the two, to the general fund is about $80,000.
So will we see an offset in fire or?
Correct. So what's interesting in property and liability, we don't, again, it's across the board. But for the workers' comp, and it's a great question, we do see a partial offset in fire. And so that will have a positive impact on taxes there. But we do have an increase in water, sewer, and parking. So it's a little bit spread around, but the biggest impact in that shift of the burdens is hitting the general fund. So the other assumption that went into this model is the deposits to the capital reserve funds. And that really is modeled and has been modeled. I used Pete's model from the 2026 budget process. That's still evolving, but as a placeholder, that's what's included in the quick model. The other thing that, if you remember from the 26 budget, is we did have many large expenditures that the town chose to fund through use of fund balance. So for this quick model, those large expenditures are taken out of the appropriation side, but you'll also see that I have zeroed out the use of fund balance in the model. So in order for the model to work, really, it's just zeroing both of those sides out. It's just sort of taking us back to zero starting point. For the revenues, we have not included any revenue growth in this analysis. And again, I feel that our dependence on, or not dependence, but we do rely a lot on state funds, both through the Meals and Rooms and the highway block grants. And any decrease in those would certainly have a significant impact on the tax burden. So again, as a very conservative approach, we've left the revenues flat. And so as the memo mentions, and we'll see, taking a look at the quick model, this would signal a 5% tax rate increase if nothing else changed. And again, I think sort of looking back to our conversation on whichever date that was in October, the fact that we do have a healthy unassigned fund balance, we may look to use of that, but again, the policy is not that it is for ongoing items. And so looking at this, I think it is the signal, and we have shared this with the department heads that, again, it's another reinforcement of really needing to do the zero-based budgeting and to really being able to substantiate increases, or actually substantiate everything in the budget. I did do a quick back of the envelope, given that we were just talking about, adding technology solutions to our HR department. The addition of the $30,000 would increase this 5.1% to 5.4. So still within that 5% range. So again, just, looking through the numbers, I think focusing on, the overall increase in tax burden that we're looking at right now, roughly 688,000. You can see the biggest driver is that increase in overall compensation and benefits of roughly $582,000.
And Ellen, some of those big negatives that you have there, and then the big negative on, are those the offsets you were talking about that you pulled out?
They are, and if you total the 200 roughly from planning and zoning, which is the digitization, it's late. The 561 in other operating costs really are those, the 190 for the stormwater, the other items that are listed in the narrative. And then the really large negative, of the 1.7 in the deposits to the capital reserve funds. Remember, that is the deposit to, and I wrote it down so I can get it correct, the capital facility CRF of 1.7 million that we voted to take from unassigned fund balance. And if you scroll down, Rob, you'll see again in the revenue, you see the full 2.592 of unassigned fund balance coming out of the revenue. So that's what those large negatives are. It looks funny, but in order to really have a snapshot, those are items that will not recur unless there's a decision to utilize fund balance in that way.
This is terrific, really great, giving us a sense of some of the factors that we're dealing with and where we stand. And thank you for doing the apples to apples, backing out those one-time items. It's super, super helpful. We'll see what, the capital side, that's still evolving, and that could change things significantly. But we go into that with our eyes wide open. So thank you. Questions for Ellen?
What is it? I was trying to, what percentage is all of our human, when you're looking at, I had two questions. One, when you're looking at personnel costs, is there a way to see the healthcare specifically, or is this
Sure. So the healthcare, it's a great question, is really on the second line, the flex
So
benefits
it's in
plan.
there, that's all of them, not just
That's,
HSA, it's all.
that's correct. It's
all of the
HSA, it's the healthcare premiums, and it's the dental premiums.
That was my first question, and then I could probably do a percentage some way, but is it like 80% human resources? Our budget?
Yeah, I think it's closer to, and wait, you know what? I didn't have it right here, so I can run it. It is a great and fair question. Bear with me once.
I have to remember I'm sharing the screen, so.
Yeah.
I'm scrolling up and down.
Like, I can do this.
And it's interesting because I can tell you that, so looking at this, the 15.8 right now represents 73% of the 21.7. Although we do need to keep in mind that we have put increases on the personnel costs where none of the other operating costs have any increase. So it.
Right.
I think
So-
it's really
so
right
somewhere-
around 70% in general is what we see.
Okay.
And I think for 26, it's less than that because of the large expenditures.
Maybe this is, I love the way it's framed, like thinking about the master plan above what's here, but it just begs the question, how is it framed when we have like, say, 70% of our expenses? Like, how are we thinking about how our current operations are maybe shifting towards better meeting our master plan goals and vision? Like, is there, and this could be like a longer conversation, but that just, like, the way it was written here about, you know, because it is, I don't think we're at a point now where we're just thinking about the change above like our core operations.
Sure. So I think it's a fair question, and with the zero-based budgeting memo, it included the OKRs from the select board, a request and instructions to use the master plan to guide the development of the departmental priorities along with the OKRs. And it, obviously there are departments who are, finance and planning, beyond, planning has an opportunity to pull some levers on housing and other things. And that's going to be driven by that guidance. But, Public Works in particular and grounds in particular can look at this as a tool to guide how they see the future projects. So I'm not sure if I'm answering the question completely.
Yeah, I think that that's the direction, and we saw some of that, right? We saw some of that last year with them starting to put together the visions, but I think there's something in there, like we're thinking about like targeting a percentage of operations that has shifted, like not business as usual, but towards the future.
And that could be the way these resources are deployed.
Yeah,
And
yeah, these are our resources, and I that's why thinking critically about them, not in the far off future, but like each year, how are we moving in that way with the bulk of our resources, with the way we operate. And some of it will take longer transitions, and some of it hopefully will be shorter transitions, right?
And that conversation straddles both the operating budget and the capital budget, right? So a lot of that's the CIPC too.
But yeah, I was just talking about the operating budget.
Yep. Yep.
This moment. That.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Ellen. Thanks for sticking around.
thank you.
And I suggest one modification
to the
Yes.
agenda.
Yeah, absolutely. Tracy, yes, okay.
If he's here.
Yes. And yes, I see we lost Jeremy, so apologies. Okay, all right. Thank you very much. So.
You wasn't here for Impartial, please.
No, he was here for me. For us.
So talk to us about new tabulation system.
Right. Thank you, Tracy Walsh, Town Clerk. Yes, we're here to talk about new tabulators. The system that we have all known and loved, the AccuVote, has officially been sunsetted at the end of 2025, giving us the opportunity to buy a new system. So there's a memo in your packet, which I'm sure was riveting reading for all. But I wanted to make sure I started at the outset to say that the funds to purchase these tabulators were put into the fiscal 26 budget for the election team. It also includes what will be a $7,000 offset in funds from the state of New Hampshire towards the purchase. So the state is giving us $3,500 per existing tabulator. So the plan right now is to order and purchase the 2 tabulators from Voting Works with all the accompanying hardware. And these are the machines that you all saw at the Maytown meeting that we demoed. We are not getting the full suite with all of the check-in poll books. Those actually are not yet approved by the state for full use. We are also not purchasing, if any of you saw the absentee process where we did a scanner to read the absentee ballots, those also are not yet fully certified at this point, but we may look to buy one of those going forward in the future. So happy to answer any questions or give more information.
I had like just a side question. Does this impact the accessibility voting one, or is that totally
Nope,
just?
that is an entire separate system.
Yeah.
It's known as the AVS, the Accessible Voting System. We also will have a new system in place as of the March school town meeting. What the state has decided to do to that is they've done an RFP for a statewide bid for that. They're going to purchase the vendor and let us know. They're going to purchase the systems. We're going to have to hold on to it as we've been doing now. Hanover had already been following what is now state law that system be available to all voters at all elections. We've been doing that in local elections here for years. But no, we do not have to buy the new accessible system. We do have to pay for programming for local and school elections, but that also is the process we've been following. I saw the systems, they all tend to be bigger and on an iPad. They do pretty well with voice recognition. Most of the systems work on what looks like a big iPad and their touch buttons, touch screens.
Super exciting that the back end will be made more efficient.
There'll still be hand counting and all of the fun things, but.
There will be.
Oh, well.
Okay. Yeah.
But I think it's gonna be a great step. We appreciated the system that we all saw in May, and so we think it'll be a good next step.
Perfect. Thank you. Do we need a?
You do need to, so.
Yes.
Okay.
I move to approve the purchase of Voting Works VX Suite V4 electronic ballot counting system.
Second. Any further discussion? No, okay, call. Okay, right. All in favor? Yes, okay, good. All right, excellent, thank you.
Thank you. I'll take your eyes and put an order in. So.
Thanks, Tracy.
You have to wait for the state to get a mail-in voter counter, or do you have to, are there some that are approved?
Are you talking about the scanner that we used for the batch?
Yeah.
This is the first one of its type that I'd seen with any voting system. So we would only get the one that speaks to the system that we're buying. So I think we're hopeful that we may even be in place by the September 2026 statewide primary, but we will see. So
Thanks, Tracy.
Thanks.
Thank you, Tracy.
Comcast.
You want to stay or?
I'm gonna stay, because I'm curious about this one.
Okay. So Comcast is our cable television provider, and I'm using that term for a reason.
I thought you were gonna say you were using it loosely.
The franchise agreement is for cable television, while most people probably use it for internet access. The statutes that govern this, both at the federal level and the state level, are for cable TV. They have issued a letter seeking to renew, formally renew their franchise agreement. That triggers a process. The first step in it is to acknowledge their letter and let them know what we want to, how we want to proceed. I'm suggesting that we proceed first with an informal discussion and see if we can bring this to closure. If that doesn't work, there's a very formal system that we need to follow. It customarily includes a cable or franchise review committee, public input, a review of the 4 criteria that have to be met in order to cancel the franchise agreement, and an engagement with the franchisee. No matter how we proceed, we do have to hold a public hearing on the final document. So with this, I would ask that the board, well, I've prepared a response to them that I would send once you give me the green light, letting them know that we have receipt of their request for formal review of their franchise agreement, but put them on notice that we would like to proceed with the informal process first.
Remind us, Rob, there is a revenue stream attached to this?
We receive 5% of the gross minus an allocation, I think it's 12,000 a year, that was paid to for them to extend the system. They did all that work in year 1. We're still paying that down.
Got it.
So
that was really important. That was, we extended it to Hanover Center and just a little bit north of that, but not as far as.
So this is cable TV. We're going to talk about internet access in a moment with Lime Fiber, and we've mentioned the BEAD grant that Fidium Fiber has been awarded that will not require a franchise agreement, but licensing on the pole. Fidium does not require either because they're overlashing on their on the telephone cable that they own. So they already have the license agreement in place. Fidium is owned by Consolidated Communications.
Oh.
So how does the informal process go? Like, so you're suggesting that we get going on this, but start rather than with like this big review process, start with informal conversations with them?
We have a couple of years.
Okay.
So, I think what they're trying to do is start so they can decide that they can work to negotiate a formal agreement and know what their long-term horizon looks like. What we should note is that this is it's a non-exclusive franchise agreement, so we can actually go out to bid for other providers in addition to negotiate with Comcast. I'm not sure how many cable television providers are out there still, but we can.
And I don't know if it helps for context, the revenue in 2025 was just under $80,000. And our first half for 2026 came in at 38. So it has been declining, which makes sense given people transitioning to streaming, but it is not an insignificant revenue source.
Okay, so you're looking to us for kind of a head nod to begin informal negotiation?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, all right. Athos is nodding. Yeah, that was good.
Everybody's got a nod.
Yep, all right. Jenny?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I'm nodding. I know it doesn't just apply to Comcast, but no, I'll have to do more research. That people are talking about how can we, do something similar with internet provision.
Yep.
Make sure our local interests are covered.
Where would you like to go?
Let's go to Lime Fiber. It seems like it's topical.
So Lime Fiber is seeking a pole license agreement and conduit license agreement for, we did include the maps. So it's hard to read, but this extends down River Road to Grant Road and to Perling Brook out to Route 10. So all of those will be part of the Lime Fiber network. Then it extends from the Lime Town line down Hanover Center Road to Rennie Road and includes Dairy Lane. I believe that captures the bulk of the runs, but they're all included in the map. Their hope is to have this completed before weather gets bad. They're ready to go.
And how excited are people about this?
There are a lot of people looking to have this yesterday.
Yes, okay, all right. And I think I asked you the question, is there any reason why anyone would argue against this? And I think your answer was no.
No, I mean, from a strategy for extending internet access, this one just is perfect.
Yep.
Our neighbor community to the north with their own private internet access or fiber is willing to extend it, and it solves a lot of issues for us.
And that's as far as they'll go. For some reason, I thought the backside of Etna too was maybe accessible from this way. I was just trying to pull up the map. I thought there was one other little section over there.
So I believe it goes Rennie Road, Hanover Center to the Limetown line on both sides and includes Dairy Lane. Are you in that tranche?
Yes. Okay. All right. Smile.
Right in there.
So we need a motion to approve the conduit license application as submitted by Lime Fiber LLC. That could be the motion. There's a second. I'll second. Further discussion? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Very exciting.
It is.
I'm in favor. I'd love to see the broadband map, just to make sure there's nothing missing. You know where it is.
It's under the New Hampshire bead. And they have
Let's keep going on the utility front.
Yes.
Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire, new customer refresh noticing and enrollment policy.
The board of directors for Community Power Coalition has requested that that the board, the governing body, vote to authorize the refresh and to further, and we also need to clarify what our baseline offer is for your energy committee at Sustainable Hanover is your Power Coalition rate setting body. And that body has recommended, and you've endorsed the idea of Granite Plus be the base rate for us, offering all options, including Granite Basic, Clean 50, and Clean 100. So anybody who automatically enrolls is assigned Granite Plus, but could step down to Granite Basic or go up to 50 or 100% clean energy. With that in mind, we're recommending the language in your packet to approve the refresh regardless of the rates, and to establish the Granite Plus as the formal rate for Hanover, the base rate.
This provides for much better planning, hedging, et cetera. So it's kind of vital for the future of the community power coalition. Is that fair to say?
It is, and it is very critical to its sustainability.
Yes. Okay. Questions on this? Okay. Motion. Motion would read, I'll read it. Approval to authorize the Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire, CPCNH, to periodically refresh Hanover Community Power customer accounts regardless of whether CPCNH rates are higher or lower than the utility's default service rates. Further authorize that Hanover Community Power's default rate be designated as Granite Plus or an equivalent local rate, with additional voluntary options offered to customers, including Granite Basic, Granite Basic Clean 50 and Clean Matter. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All right. Further discussion. Those in favor? Aye. Aye. That's unanimous. Okay, thank you.
Picking up speed here.
Yes, trying to pick up speed. Okay, we have a number of consent agenda items. Was there anything you wanted to discuss prior to that, Rob?
Nope.
Okay. So we discussed this last time, but I guess it was Ryan Cassidy who donated the 2004 Volvo. Is that okay? That's kind of almost a clarification, but well, that's in the consent agenda. Are there any items which select board members would like to remove from the consent agenda? And we'll circle back with thanks on donations.
Oh, the minutes, I had corrections in the minutes that are in the 11:03 minutes, and then the retreat minutes. I just thought it was important to mention the 2 to 3 year strategic plan idea. We talked about
3-year strategic plan activities and the select,
yeah, in 10-17 minutes. So I pulled the minutes for D&E. Yeah.
Okay.
Can you provide us with your recommendation? Or did you provide Kate with yours?
I provided them for the 11-3. I couldn't get this, whatever, until.
Thank you, Alan.
Good night. Thank you.
I couldn't get access to this. I can't get access to the board docs until they're released publicly. So I didn't have time to do it this weekend. But so I don't have them written. It's just a little for the 10-17, but I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for the 10-17, then maybe the board will take this as an amendment. You want to have specific mention of a 3-year strategic plan, sort of filling the gap between.
Oh, it's just like writing that the board members discussed how OKRs could help translate the town's long-term goals into measurable outcomes and reinforce policy priorities.
Yep.
That was specifically like through the filter of a 2 to 3 year strategic plan.
Okay.
And it's like, so to me, this read, this is about what Marty said, and Marty said the OKRs were like, oh, a great year list, but needs a 2 to 3 plan. So it seemed to me not representing her.
Okay, I think the board is maybe going to take that as an amendment, what you just said. So thank you.
Okay.
And with respect to the November 3rd.
Do you want me to read them? I can bring them up if you want.
If you think that they are worth mentioning, if they're, yeah.
Or do we just take it to the next meeting and send your updates to Kate and we can review it again?
Yeah, I sent my updates to Kate.
But it didn't make it in here.
Correct. So.
Are there a lot of them?
Yeah, I don't remember right now. There's a lot of names. Okay, so there's a lot of names. So I assume you guys want the names, right?
Yep.
Move these to the next agenda.
Okay.
Okay.
Just pull the minutes out.
All right, we'll pull out E, and so,
We have to pull them out anyway to discuss them even, so.
right, we're effectively discussed them, yeah, so, but let's take your amendments on.
Yeah, there might not be anything other than the name, but there might be. I'd have to.
If it's the names, why don't we say with amendments to correct names?
Because I'm not 100% sure it's just the names.
Oh, okay.
Because it's not showing the changes in my document right now.
Okay, so let's pull out E, and let's do A through D, with D representing an amendment. Is there a motion to that effect? Approve the consent agenda with amendments to the October 17th select board retreat as discussed.
How about that's the motion?
That is the motion. Yes,
Second.
second. All right. Any further discussion on that? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, we'll come back to the November 3rd minutes. Would anyone like to call out thanks for the specific donations to the Etna Library and Parks and Rec?
I've got it. Thank you to John and Nancy Collier, $2,000 donated to the Etna Library. And the Muriel and E and Edward C. Watcher Charitable Foundation, $500 to the Etna Library. And then $500 sponsorship donation from Barani Realty for this year's turkey trot to support a new chip timing system. We already mentioned the Volvo. Thank you, Ryan Kessler.
Okay, thank you very much for those donations. Do we have anything else, Rob, for the public meeting?
No, I think we're, oh, yes, if the board would indulge me, I do want to speak to the work on West Wheelock.
Yes.
And a pending press release. The town and the college are collaborating. Want to announce this, that we're moving forward with a collaboration on West Wheelock, the development of the plan. The college is paying 100% of this work. Spelled collaboration, sorry. And it's, what I want to speak to is the time frame and the efforts that we're trying to pull off here. As you may recall, last year we submitted a concept that was included in the tax increment finance plan. Town meeting vote included some funds to design the corridor based on that plan. The college has stepped forward with its projects to offer to fund the development in concert with the town's effort to bring this to fruition. So there's no out-of-pocket expense to the town. The team from the town side is Pete Kobaki, myself, Jen Murray, and Alex Taft. The team on the other side includes a host of design professionals and Dave Anderson, Jessica Nyland, and Josh Keniston, thank you. And we are working hard at bringing forward, so speak to some of the issues. We have some, the first picture is looking towards the campus right at Old Tuck Drive, that hillside, some dying pine trees, some erosion. We have some stormwater issues that are happening near the bridge that are part of our stormwater system. And of course, we have, as you all know, a vehicle-dominated landscape, streetscape. The concept that is driving this design is what we presented last year at the select board meeting with the TIF concept. It includes on the south side, a 5-foot sidewalk, a landscape buffer, a 6-foot bike lane that would be heading east, a full 11-foot travel lane, a 13-foot travel lane westbound that would include Sharrow for bicycles, a landscape buffer, and a 10-foot shared use plan from Old Tuck Drive to east of, we're going to cross Main Street, Main Street,
so that it's connected to that point, with the hopes that it will go beyond that, as part of tying our commitment to an inclusive use system for all users. The design strategy here includes undergrounding all the power, upgrading stormwater where necessary, upgrading sewer where necessary, upgrading water where necessary, landscape and design of the streets to incorporate a robust street tree program that is easy to maintain, and a lighting plan that fits all users so that it's safe and usable by all users. There's some technical issues that we're working through. The expectation is that we're presenting numbers to this body and a plan to this body and the CPIU late December, early January.
Wow, that's quick.
My concern is, Dartmouth bought now a string of buildings on the south side. But even before that, we have a lot of people on the south side that move between both spaces. And for a walkable area, that 5-foot sidewalk doesn't seem adequate. It also is super uncomfortable biking up in the bike lane unless you're comfortable riding in traffic. So I would just put in a plug for considering a similar treatment on the south side and moving that. I don't understand. I know there are plowing considerations, and I think we need to plan to transition away from that, because there's nothing that I've seen comparable with a small town volume that requires the 13-foot lanes. And we just have to be smarter about how we use our space if we actually want to make it so that people can walk over and bike over from Norwich, like, easily.
The right of way is a limiting factor, and gaining 3 feet from the shared lane.
Well, 3 and 6 for the bike lane, shift the tree line and make a multi-use path on the other side as well. We have the room.
We are actually using a portion of Dartmouth's land and a large segment of the easternmost portion of this. Having said that, I've heard you, and it hasn't been something we've been considering, and I don't think we can make that radical change, and I consider it a radical change from where we are today. The shared use path on the north side is usable by all, and we are looking at all of our crossings to make sure that they are supporting all users in a safe and adequate way.
So one of the other big deficiencies on the street is a lack of crossings. Is there a planned crossing at the bridge and further up?
Can I propose that the planning group maybe get with you, Jenny, to discuss this? Not right now. We've been going at this for 3 hours, and they're valid points, but there's obviously going to be a lot going forward, and I don't think we have to solve this right now. Is that a
But I think when I brought it up last year, I was told that we'd have a public process. And now I'm being told that this is already too late. So it seems like this would be the last time you would probably have to hear about it.
So
like, it seems like we're talking about the gateway to our town, and that our gateway to our town is walkable on like both sides. And like a suburban 5-foot sidewalk just doesn't really cut it.
So just.
For a walkable downtown.
We also have the need for a non-public. May I make a suggestion, which is, Rob, you're going to be attending the CIPC. Jenny, you'll be there as well. Are you going to talk about this announcement at that time?
It's on the agenda.
So it's on the agenda. So why don't we use a little bit of that time, Jenny, just in light of the hour and the fact that we do.
The CIPC is really, I thought, looking at the financing and whether it is like a worthy capital improvement in terms of like part of our vision. It's not really a planning design session.
Well, right, and arguably this is not a
It
planning
just-
design session either, so, but it strikes me. that-
Actually, the select board, I mean, this is why you're coming to select board, right? It's because the select board oversees public right of way.
I'm coming to the select board to let you know that you tasked me with doing something. I've taken a slightly different tack because I had the opportunity to negotiate this collaboration. And I would offer that we wouldn't be as far along as we are without all the work that was done and going on of all the 3 projects owned by Dartmouth. Having said that, I'm not recalling a conversation that this body has ever had about 2 shared use paths, one on each side.
No, I just said the sidewalk was insufficient, but like,
In your opinion,
maybe I,
is it insufficient?
what?
In your opinion, it is, but we have these like professional planners that this is what they do and
Let's try to address it in chunks, and I think I've heard your comments. I'll take it to the design group as the town's concerns. If the body, for me, we don't maintain beyond last residence in the wintertime on the south side, because you can't cross the bridge. This proposal will include a new crossing down by Old Tuck Drive and a winter maintenance sidewalk down there. But we don't have empirical data that would suggest that sidewalk suddenly will have a huge uptick in use, because most of the housing is east of that intersection on the south side.
So thank you. So Jenny, you will
I
have
think, like,
an opportunity
what-
to speak about this at CIPC.
Well, I don't think that's the appropriate time, but I just don't. I think it's a different conversation.
It's just before 10 PM. We have a non-public to go into.
I understand it. So what I wanted to say is, in light of the shared street vision plan that Carolyn has been sharing and all of the expertise that she's been sharing from around the globe and around this continent, and speaking about roads of different volumes and different speeds, it has been suggested that that bike lane on this street with this volume of cars, not this particular one, but any street with this volume of cars, would require separation for that bicyclist. And that wasn't maybe, it was definitely. It was above 6,000 cars, this carries 12,000. And it requires separation if we want what the town has said they're gonna want.
And
This is like a once in 50-year renovation on a street? I just wanna make sure we think through what we're doing, that's all. Right?
I am in an unenviable position of discussing, and I don't want to prolong this because I think we're all getting tired. I know we're tired. The bike lane on the south side is for high confidence riders. The shared use path on the north side is the separated path.
So yeah, so then it really comes down to what that crossing at the bridge looks like. right?
Yes,
And what the other crossings look like.
yes.
And I'll just, one other thing, they had the mid-block crossing for the construction,
Yes.
it's needed. Like some other crossing, that's
We're looking at all of
Long
our crossings, ensuring they're ADA compliant and that can meet the requirements that we need.
Good. All right. Thank you. We do have need of a brief non-public. So pursuant to RSA 91.3 A, B, D, E, and L. I move that we move into non-public session. Need a roll call.
Second. Estes, yes.
Yes. Burke, yes. Callahan, yes.
Chamberlain, yes?
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nick.
I appreciate it.